I was just on my way home from a Bible study and a text came in. And, my car is probably like yours. It actually will read the text out loud. You just have to touch the little screen. And as I touched the screen, not knowing what the message was going to be, this is what I heard my car read out. Our letter to Jimmy Kimmel is going viral. Signed now to support Kimmel after Trump and ABC pulled him off the air. And I kind of laughed and I thought, oh my gosh, they're reaching right into my phone, spreading what? In the Bible, First Peter chapter 4:8 says, above all, love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. And in Proverbs 10:12, it says, hatred stirs up conflict. Do you see what's going on? But love covers over all wrongs. I want you to think about gossip and negativity. If I was to tell you that Nicole Kidman just got her 50th leading woman part in a movie, would you remember that forever? Or would you remember Nicole Kidman just got turned down for her 37th movie? She's a has-been. That's not true, of course. But which one would you hear more? Which one do we listen to more? Which one do we take in? Negativity, hatred, discord, disapproval? Or do we take in the wonderful things that are going on in life? I mean, I have a lot of good friends. I know a lot of good people. And, I expect good things from them. But what happens if we get too focused on the negativity? We're not going to hear about the positive things on the news. Sometimes I think they're just out there to divide us. Yes, you're listening to The Extraordinary Marriage, and we're going to be talking about today what happens when we become divided in our own home. What happens when we become divided in our own home and we can't agree? Well, the name of this is, don't hang up on me now, 5 ways you'll be happier when you listen more than you talk. Who wants a stronger, more connected marriage? Who wants more connection, more love with their spouse? Well, it's one of those things. Just like in this world, we have to listen to one another more than we talk. I'm a natural talker, and so I had to learn the importance of listening to others. Sometimes I would talk when there was blank space and nobody else was talking. It's like not just to hear myself talk, but like somebody's got to say something. We can't just sit around, right? But I started to learn the importance. There's a lot of people who, man, they're thinking. They have a lot to say, but they don't say anything unless invited. Yeah, that's not the people we hear on the news. That's not the people we hear on social media. Uh, there's a lot of people with wise thoughts, and they just don't say anything until invited or ask their opinion. They don't share their opinion, and they don't want any conflict. But today I'm gonna help you see how learning to listen more than you talk is going to enhance your marriage. First of all, you know what? Conflict resolution. When people aren't listening to each other, they cannot resolve the conflict because no one's listening. His opinion, her opinion, and no one's listening. You can learn to address the issues, and that's what you're doing by listening today before they happen. Create more love, more caring, more support in your marriage. So, learn to listen more than you talk. Learn to listen, really listen before you speak. Because often we are listening, waiting for our turn to speak. I already got something to say. I already thought about it. I'm a quick thinker. So I could do that. So I might be thinking about what I'm going to say before the other person finishes. A lot of times people cut each other off and don't even listen. Learn to ask questions. Learn to ask questions to clarify. Yes, we assume we know what the other person's thinking, but most often, none of us think exactly alike, and a lot of times spouses may be a bit of have a little bit of opposite, like just they think totally different, and so then they assume they know what the other person's thinking, and then they're not listening for what's really most important. Another thing is that we want to be open. We want to be open and thoughtful and kind and expecting the best from our spouse, right? Resolving conflict, listening, asking questions, and be open to the other person's opinion. The second thing is shared goals. You know, we want to grow together, then we want to know what our spouse values most. What is the most important thing to them? And, it might not be what's most important to us, but because we love them and we care for them, then we value what's most important to them. And instead of pushing each other apart, we come together in the middle. There's a middle ground in everything. We come together in the middle because I value what you're thinking, and I hope that you value what I'm thinking. Sometimes we have to align our goals. We literally have different goals in life, but we want to learn to support one another. We want to learn to support one another in our goals. And there's a freedom in marriage. There's that bond of being together and finding that unity, but there's also being individuals, finding your individual self and respecting one another for that. Often if we really disagree with someone and we listen to why they're thinking the way they're thinking, then we have something we agree on because we're all human beings. We really all want the same things, right? To be seen, to be heard, to be appreciated. We want the same things. So, conflict resolution, listening, asking questions, being open, shared goals help you grow together. Aligning your goals and your values and learning to work as a team because you are a team. Now, here's the thing when you learn to have conflict resolution, listen more than you talk, and you learn to pay attention to what's most important to your spouse, and you have shared goals, hopefully shared values, because if you don't have that, it's kind of hard to go in the same direction, isn't it? At one point, I had a young woman who talked to me, and she was a person of color, and her spouse was a white guy. And I really don't, as I get to know people, I don't see their color. I see the person. I see their merit, their values, if they're truthful, if they're honest. This is the kind of thing I see. But the world is causing division. That news media that we listen to causes division between people who are different colors, rich people, not rich people. If you think about it, there's a lot of ways to divide people. And that is exactly what they're doing. And that's seeping into our homes and causing division between couples. So this couple, she's a woman of color. He's a white guy. They have two children. And she tells me her story. And as I hear her talk, I hear that hostility. She's assuming that their biggest difference is that she's of color and he's white. No, their biggest differences were not really that. Their biggest differences were what they valued in life, whether they respected one another. And once we disrespect our spouse and then they're hostile back at us and then we disrespect them again and they disrespect us, yeah, that's conflict and that's what happens. But when you have shared goals, shared values, you learn to listen to one another, ask questions, and listen for those answers. It will bring you together. And guess what all that gives you? Increased happiness. I'm one of those people. I mean, I like to be around happy people. If I'm having a hard day, because we all do, I like to be around somebody who's uplifting, not telling me all the bad news of the world and moaning and groaning and wanting me to feel bad, just like they're feeling bad. Well, let's say, well, I was the one that was feeling bad. So I want somebody who's going to lift me up, right? Don't you want someone who's going to lift you up and love on you and brush you off and help you move forward? Well, increased happiness, it means we expect the best in each other. When my spouse comes home, I expect the best. Um, we act lovingly towards them. Why? Because we want them to act lovingly towards us. We have joy daily. I like to have joy daily. I like to be happy. How about you? Do you like to be happy? Do you like to sit in misery? There are those people who like to sit in misery. Conflict resolution because we ask questions. We have shared goals, increased happiness. For better communication, you want to learn to put others before yourself. Yeah, we're all a little selfish, but we have to learn to put our spouse before ourselves. And part of that is when I'm listening, maybe I have something else I want to share, but when I'm listening, I'm putting him before myself. That gives us better communication, listening more than we talk. And what does this do? It builds family unity. It brings families together. It brings couples together. They respect each other. They want to hear what the other person has to say. And when we have better communication, it gives us better life skills. We're more successful in public and out in the world. And guess what? It gives our children better life skills because more is caught than taught. Yeah. More is caught than taught. So I could tell you to do something all the time, but if I don't do it, then, it's not remember. Kids remember the things they learn in their home, how their parents treat each other, how they communicate, um, how they talk to each other, um, how they respect each other. I was telling my kids at an after school club that I was taking part in each week at a school. I was telling them because they were all talking when the teacher was talking, or they were all talking when the speaker was talking. And I said, guys, do y'all like for people to listen to you when you're talking? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, well, it's like you have to respect others and listen to them, and then they will respect you and listen to you. You must give respect to get respect. And that's the same in our homes. It's the same thing with our spouse. We want to give respect to get respect. Now, once in a while, you get stuck in a situation where somebody, they got some problems. And that could be a plethora of different things I'm not going to go into. They have problems. Get help. They have problems. Try to get them to get help because it's not simple and they don't know how to treat you. They don't know how to treat others. But everybody wants to be treated with love and kindness, right? Everybody, even that spouse who's doesn't seem like they want it because maybe they're kind of hateful and mean. They want to be loved and respected. They just don't know how to give it. And you got to give it sometimes to get it. So, better communication. That means you're working together, not making assumptions. You're asking questions. You're figuring it out. You're listening more than you talk, and you're working together. And guess what happens when you work together in all these things? You, in the end, feel heard. We all want to be seen, heard, and appreciated. We are all human beings. We really all want the same things, but sometimes we don't know how to give them. We do have to give respect to others and listen to them in order to be heard. The last thing, the fifth thing is what happens in all this when we learn how to listen and more than we talk, we we have good conflict resolution. So now our house is peaceful. We share our goals. We're liking each other. We have increased happiness. We have better communication, not just in our home, but with other people too. Well, it has a positive family impact, a positive impact on your marriage, and it affects your children positively. Success in the next generation for life and family. So when your kids grow up, they got to witness what a loving, kind, godly, hopefully godly home looks like. And then they move forth and they do the same thing with their kids. So, I didn't think about all this whenever I was young and my children were small. Man, you're just like making your way. It's stressful sometimes. It's tiresome. You're 24/7 on all the time. And it's hard when your kids are small and you're not thinking of these things. That's why I'm here telling you about them right now. So you can think of those things and find more peace in your home. So my kids are grown. I have grandkids, and my kids went forth. Now, as they went forth and got married, they ran into some things where other families weren't exactly like our family. And sometimes the strongest and the loudest voices take over. But if you want peace in your family, if you want more happiness in your family, you got to fight for it. Not in a bad way, but in a loving way. Remember those first verses that I read? All right. So, positive family impact, it goes from generation to generation. And on the other hand, negative family impact goes generation to generation. You might be caught up in that. You might be from some of the negative uh, family situations, but you can change that step by step. You can change that. Respect others, they respect you. And guess what? Freedom to love and to be loved. That's really what we really want. But we get caught up in the negativity. We stop listening. There's a fight going on and there's a lot of talking and nobody's listening, right? But we all want to have freedom to be loved and to love others. I'm Connie Durham with The Extraordinary Marriage. You can find my podcast on Apple and Spotify. Please subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. And you can go to theextraordinarymarriage.com/podcast, and you can always find them there. But I want to offer you today a fresh insight into your relationship. If you're having trouble, if you're having challenges, I mean, there's all different kind of reasons for that, but it's called Fresh Insights. And if you go to my podcast page and there's a button at the top right-hand side, you can book an hour with me, and it's a very low cost, much less than if you went to a counselor or anywhere else. But I'm a relationships coach, and I have over 40 years of marriage, and I'm certified in human behavior styles. And I can help you assess and maybe see something that you're not seeing and help you move forward in a better way in your marriage in just 1 hour. All right. I also have a workshop that's on demand. It's called Rediscover Your Spouse. Rediscover Your Spouse. It's really learning about personality styles and seeing the strengths in your spouse and letting go of some of the challenges. Usually, as married couples, one's good in one area, one's good in the other. And if you let go and learn to rely on each other and to listen more than you talk, then you can learn to get along better with your spouse. So it might resolve some of those challenges that you're having. And that's called Fresh Insights. And you'll find that at the top of theextraordinarymarriage.com/podcast page. Thank you for listening today. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have comments on this, if you have questions, you can email me, Connie at theextraordinarymarriage.com. Thanks for listening. See you next week.